Here we go. Okay. Does it say it's recording?
Oh, cool.
Yep. Okay, cool.
It's beeping.
Awesome.
That's good.
So I think if
Which one is that? Is that the new one?
It's a GoPro 8.
Okay.
So, and I think if I'm in front of you, it'll pick up your audio better.
Oh, right.
Because it's going this way as opposed to...
Because the microphone's in the back?
Well...
Or no, because I'm projecting
yeah,
forward.
exactly, yeah. No, this is great because I'm doing Sober October and with my cousins.
Oh, yeah?
And we do it every year.
So, like, completely sober from alcohol?
Yeah, alcohol, and we add stuff. So I'm doing no Instagram or Facebook. And then we're doing 200 miles and then 8 Murphs.
That's awesome.
Well, I'm doing 8 Murphs, nobody else is.
That's fun.
Yeah, so this is good to get my miles in.
And what sort of Murph are you doing?
It's
like
the
regular one?
It's the 20-pound vest, yeah. Do you know what it is?
The 2-mile run,
Yeah.
like 100 push-ups,
Yeah. No, pull-ups.
pull-ups, and then I don't know what the number for the other stuff.
200 push-ups and 300 squats.
That's a lot.
So ratio 1, 2, 3.
That's a lot.
Yeah, but you can break it up into sets. So I do 20 sets of 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 squats.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so if you break it down and work up to it, it's like actually not that hard for me anymore. I'm not saying that to be pretentious. I'm surprised like what the body's capable of if you're consistent enough.
Oh yeah, man, it's like all what you're used to.
Yeah. Yeah, well that's my thing with fitness is like, it's gotta make sense like on a practical level.
Oh yeah.
So I'm a big fan of efficiency in time and then like a holistic workout.
Yeah.
That's why I like the Murph so much. Because you're just using, I don't always do it with the vest, right? So just your body weight and all you need is a place to do pull-ups.
Yeah.
And it works the entire body.
You get a lot in.
Yeah. So super efficient, I think.
That would be hard too.
Yeah. Super hard. How we doing? We walking a little bit?
What's that?
Are we walking a little bit or?
Yeah, I'll take a little bit.
Okay.
What is it like when you do it?
What is it like?
Yeah.
Now it's just a matter of starting and then I just crank it out, you know, like it's to me it's just like a workout.
Yeah.
When I first started it was like, oh, it was hell, man. It's daunting, but now it's just like, oh, get my workout in. So I'm in a good, because September I did it every day without a vest as a challenge.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was, yeah, it was, I'm never doing that again. Mentally, that was the hardest. Like, I just did this yesterday. It wasn't physically hard because my body just got used to it.
Yeah.
It was mentally exhausting.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. So this twice a week one is mentally, it's probably the sweet spot actually, because you get to rest and it's like, yeah.
With a 20-pound vest.
Yeah, but still it's like,
Huge difference.
it is, but like if I did it every day with 20-pound vest, no way. Like
You would be like,
that would be,
fatigued.
yeah, I think you would deteriorate your body pretty good. I mean, maybe I could, I mean, if you get the body used to anything, it'll stick with it, but I'd have to eat like a horse.
Yeah, if you like that mentality, have you heard of a guy named David Goggins?
Oh yeah.
He's like the epitome of that.
Yeah.
I like him. The only thing that I don't like about him is that I think he, I don't know him, but this is my wonder. I wonder how comfortable he is with negative emotions and failure.
Ah.
Because it seems like he has this approach where he does everything in life as hard as he can.
Yeah.
With like a super practical perspective, like have an emotion, do something.
Yeah.
Right? And so that after watching videos of him and stuff, it made me wonder, like, how accepting is he of failure? Because sometimes the things he does, he pushes his body to actual injury and past actual injury.
Yeah.
Which I would think is probably due to an unhealthy relationship with your body.
And self-worth?
Yeah. You know, because, like, sure, like, sometimes people do that, right? But I don't know. Yeah, I wonder about that, though. Self-worth is, I think, what I was thinking. Like, how much, what are you worth if you feel bad about yourself? Or if you fail something?
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Willing to accept it? Or are you going to push yourself until you literally injure yourself?
Jeez.
Because you're that uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, what's defining your success or your worth?
Right.
Is it the end of the goal that you set up by any means possible?
Or are you okay with yourself while you're going through that?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
whenever I see people like that, I always think that their parents made love conditional.
Ah.
And with him, he's a unique character because he was in the Special Forces.
Yeah.
And the Special Forces is basically like a crash course in emotional abuse.
Yeah.
Because it's suppression, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we're gonna make it so that you don't feel anything.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna teach you what's appropriate.
Yeah.
Which works for people who are like so chaotic that they don't have any way of regulating themselves.
Ah.
You know, if you have like, suppose you have someone who's like addicted to alcohol, super violent, you know, just can't regulate the anger, whatever they feel.
Yeah.
That sort of a system might actually be what they need because the chaos they're living in is extreme.
Ah.
So they might need a system that's equally as extreme.
But different.
Right, but healthier.
Healthier, yeah. Step up at least.
But the interesting thing is that systems like that really don't create intimacy in relationships.
Ah.
They instead create trauma bonds,
Oh, interesting.
which are different.
Like, so you're bonded with your crew because you've been through trauma together?
Right.
Ah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's not the same. So it's interesting to see people who've been through that
Yeah.
come out in the real world outside of the military and then try to make relationships with people.
Well, and I'm sure you've had a lot of clients like that in equine.
Oh yeah.
So ex-military, right?
Yep.
Or veterans?
Yeah.
And you see that? Do you see that? Is that empirical? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And what you usually see is that people like that, when they get out of the system that's regulating and controlling them, they go crazy.
because there's nothing, there's no external thing regulating them anymore.
Yeah. And they didn't have the skill set to develop that regulation through relationships with other people.
Ah.
So they don't have intimate relationships. They just can't do it. And then your kind of job as a therapist is to say, hey, I know this truth about you is that you want intimacy.
Yeah.
You long for intimacy, but you're afraid. You know, you're afraid of all this hurt that you experience, and you don't know how to tell people about it.
Because it's just too painful to look at and talk about.
Yeah.
And that's where equine therapy comes in, right? Because it's It's all about more metaphor, right?
Yep.
And creating a new groove.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at an old one, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And reorganizing past trauma. Because anyone like that, like, suppose you have someone who's like super violent, like a teenager, right? Like really violent, addicted to alcohol, drugs. What they're doing is they're saying, I'm hurt. That's what that behavior is.
Yeah.
And the chaos of it, like basically how chaotic it is, will be commensurate with how hurt they are.
So like it's like almost an exact reflection.
Yeah.
Or correlation, is that a better word?
Yeah. Or I like reflection, but yeah, you could use either. And so really a lot of the hard work in equine therapy is creating a space that's safe enough for people to connect the hurt they experience to the chaos in their life.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just don't get it.
Don't get what?
They just don't get that right away. You know, it's not apparent to them because they learn to not engage with negative emotion. They learn just to like suppress emotions basically through either alcohol or we were talking about the special forces, you know?
Yeah.
Same thing, it's just, I guess, to some extent a little healthier.
You know what's interesting? During Sober October,
Yep.
I'll notice negative, I'll call them storms,
Oh yeah?
that are just like in my brain,
Really?
that are just like, and I want to, I have that, that reaction to suppress or resist.
Yep.
And I learned that does not, it just makes it worse.
Yeah.
And so I've been experimenting with relaxing
Yeah.
and just like letting the storm go.
Yeah.
And then it kind of just fades away.
Yep.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's because it's emotion.
Yeah.
You know, emotion is like, emotion isn't logical. That's what people, I think, get so confused about.
Yeah.
Is it's just a part, it's a reflection of like relationships we have.
Uh-huh.
So you feel hurt, you feel whatever
Oh yeah.
storm, and then if you suppress it, say, no, I don't feel that way,
Yeah. Or deny it or try to, yeah.
then your brain is like, what? But if you just say, yeah, I feel that way.
Yeah.
And even more powerfully, like say, it's okay for me to feel that way.
Yeah, accepting it.
Then goes away.
Yeah, it's kind of a catch-22.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this weird irony, like, man.
I think it's a American and what's the other word for it?
Would you say U.S. more specifically?
Yeah.
U.S. culture?
And like
Predominant, I mean not all.
first world culture problem.
First world culture, okay.
Because we don't have difficulties in life.
Like physical?
Yeah.
Majority, right? Like,
so we attach all these negative emotions to relational stress because that's our tiger.
So it's almost like you have to in a first world culture, you almost have to have a healthy tiger to battle.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because people have something to put their negative emotions in. Suppose your tiger is the emotional stress you have from your job, or this terrible dynamic between you and your mom. Super ambiguous. How do you put any meaning to that? Right? And it's like very connected to you. So what if it's you who's doing something wrong? You know? But if your tiger is a pandemic outside of your control, a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
Because what about a tiger, right? Like, think about it. If you're like thousands of years ago human, it's not your fault if you run into a tiger.
So then the question is, what's a healthy tiger? if we all, because you're debating, you're arguing then that we're always going to have a tiger.
Yep.
So then, but then we also may be able to choose our tiger.
Yeah.
So then what would be, in your paradigm, a healthy tiger?
Something or some way of externalizing a challenge until people can develop the emotional confidence to face their potential failure.
Interesting. So staying emotionally stable after a failure,
Right.
or a mistake, which are inevitable.
Right, but you have to be able to externalize the problem.
Not identify with it.
Right. If you're constantly taught that you're the problem, you'll never be able to address it.
Interesting.
Because you're wrong. You're the problem. And that's a trap. Because no person is really the problem.
But we tell ourselves we are.
Right.
And then we're caught in this like mental emotional cycle.
Right, but toss God into that picture. What does God say? I love you unconditionally.
Yeah, without condition.
I made you in my image. Go be good stewards.
Yeah.
Does that sound like we're the problem? No.
Well, that reminds me of that documentary, I Am.
Yeah.
Have you seen that one?
I've heard of it, but I haven't actually seen it.
Well, the thesis is, instead of saying I am what's wrong with the world, it's to reframe it to I am what's right with the world.
Yeah.
And seeing the value in everyone and yourself, like an accurate one, and then seeing how we're all connected.
Yeah.
In a real tangible way. And then through like what you're saying, like conscious stewardship, conscious action, you are what's right with the world.
Yeah, yeah. And people can't handle the inverse of that. Because the inverse of that is too negative. People get in these mental spaces that I call negative sentiment, where they begin to attach like actual fight or flight physiological responses to their own perception of themselves, because they think they're wrong. And that's what happens when you have people who have severe depression, severe anxiety. Depression is freezing.
Yeah.
Depression is saying I can't handle this, I need to stop.
Yeah.
Anxiety is saying I gotta run away.
Yeah.
Right? And then there's other ones, like people who have personality disorders, like borderline personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, narcissism. Those people, they're fighting. They're saying I can't handle intimacy with you. And so they do all these games to push people away.
Yeah.
And they're super effective.
Would you say conscious and unconscious games?
Could be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of frightening if you interact with someone who's doing it consciously.
Yeah.
You know, if you're willing to acknowledge that.
Like a self-proclaimed narcissist?
Yeah. It's a little frightening if you think about it.
It is.
Maybe they don't know what they're actually doing.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting. It's like a catch-22, like you're saying, right? Like, suppose someone who has narcissism, right? They say, this is me. I like me. But why are they engaging with other people then? If they're going to play these games that make other people feel unvaluable.
Is that a definition of a narcissist, basically?
Yeah.
Making people feel less so they feel better, or they just know they're better and they need other people to know that they're better?
Right. And making everything the focus of them. Needing validation more than anything else.
Okay.
Because they, at their core, are extremely uncomfortable with who they are in relationship with other people.
Yeah. Well,
but it's such a crazy catch-22 because they're pushing people away, and the people who are acknowledging of that are basically saying they're okay with that, but they keep doing it. So if they were okay pushing people away, why would they keep trying to engage?
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why would they? Why?
Probably because on a
go be a hermit.
Well, because I think on a deeper level they do crave connection.
Right.
Social creatures. It's interesting everything you're saying. Like I feel like I've been in all those arenas. You know, like times in my life, like struggled with depression, anxiety, forms of narcissism. Like,
totally.
Like I don't think I'm exempt from
oh no, dude.
these struggles. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everyone experiences that. I'm a great example of that. Depression, sure. Anxiety, sure. Narcissism, oh yeah. Well, yes, to a certain extent, because sometimes you really want people to like you.
Yeah.
So you might, I don't know about you, I might sometimes tell people something that isn't true. You know, to help them like me more.
Yeah, I've been there. I think I've done that.
Yeah, and it's not,
and then I think about it afterwards, I'm like, why did I say that? That's weird.
It doesn't help, and it's really just because we're terrified of not being accepted.
Yeah,
that's a core need.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important thing to be honest about with oneself. Like, and that's why I've set up or trying to more like together apart situations, but you know, like Texas Hold'em night, or just interacting with people in a safe way, obviously, but different people to kind of get that feeling of connection. And then also I think an accurate reflection of my place in the cosmos, if you will. My niche, because you're going to get feedback, right? And it's going to probably be more accurate if it's different kinds of people, different types of people, even people with different political views or different religious views or whatever. Different age, different culture.
And the hard part, I think, is that a lot of people don't learn the tools to manage that.
Okay.
Because the tools to manage that really are being comfortable with yourself enough that you're willing to basically ask questions, entertain what other people think of you, but not let that define you. Yeah,
that is a tricky one. But then the thing is, we're not perfect.
Right.
I think that's where the spiritual journey comes in. At least for me, like having that morning practice. I think we were talking about this before, of kind of filling my tank or finding my value, the still small voice within in the morning. On my solitude, like morning runs. And then find that peace there. And then when I go into the world, interact with different people, it's like nothing really can stick as much. I mean, sure, I'll still get hurt feelings or whatever, but it's not as bad. Or my ego's not as flared up. Because it's like, because the ego wants to be inflated, right? If you're not finding like real value, then your ego's gonna really seek it out.
And that is a complicated topic, right? Like, what's the value of your ego?
Yeah, I'm trying to learn how to like see my ego as a friend, but not associate with it as my identity. And I think that's healthy. I mean, what do you think? Like, you think that's more accurate, or?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know where I land on that. I think, in general, I'm much more disconnected from my perception of my ego, unless I'm having a fight. If I'm having a fight, I'm very connected to it.
Ah, so you're less connected. You said less connected.
In general.
In general, yeah.
At least I'm not aware of it if I am.
Yeah.
But
this is cool.
yeah, really cool. This changed dramatically.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like we're going left? Yeah, left, yeah. Oh,
Awesome.
cool.
Yeah, very cool.
This is a big change from what it was. We've been in like some big forest for a long time.
I think,
That.
yeah, I like that idea of less connected, because I'll notice when my ego kind of, oh, I'm like, oh, that's my ego. Like somebody will misrepresent me or do my job title wrong, and I could be like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like, I catch myself like, I think it's a value-based thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
so if my actual value is based on title, perception of others,
Yep.
whatever, then I'm kind of at the whim of other people's perceptions,
Oh yeah.
and that's just a chaotic world.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's chaos, right?
it's chaos. Yeah.
It's like I had one person describe that as a extremely chaotic sea
Yeah.
where you have no control.
Yeah.
You have no agency. It's the ocean,
Yeah.
and you're like a little boat.
Yeah. Totally.
So if it's calm and chill, sure, you're happy.
Yeah.
But see, I always wonder why people put their value in systems like that.
Maybe because they don't know anything else. At least for me, it's like, I think I've experienced a piece just below the storm. Like if you go 5 feet under the water of the stormy ocean, it's like still, right?
Right.
So like I've experienced in my life like that piece. Probably my, just a lot of tools that my parents gave me growing up, which I'm just very grateful. Oh yeah? Oh cool. Which I'm very grateful for. But because I've had those experiences, it's relative, right?
Yeah.
I go, oh, well, this is better.
Yep.
So I'm gonna aim towards this new beneficial experience. And I think for me, that's a good motive. Like if I experience something better, I'm gonna focus more on that than denying or trying not to do the thing that's destructive. I don't know, it's like when you...
But it also puts us in this space where we're perpetually pushing ourselves to grow.
Okay.
And I always wonder where that comes from. See, the other thing that I was thinking with the ocean metaphor,
Yeah.
is I think all the people I've interacted with who strongly identify with that are extremely uncomfortable with negative emotion in relationship with other people.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily because they have bad parents. It could just be because their parents are uncomfortable with that. Their parents never taught them, here's how you talk about negative emotion and make it something that isn't a world ender.
Yeah.
And I think I've always seen that connected to the locus of control of the ocean.
Yeah.
Because the ocean, you have no control. Like, you have no, you're floating. Like,
Yeah.
your world is basically not even yours. and I've always seen that connected to that negative emotion.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's actually true. It's just always that's my like clinical one question, I guess. Like, is that really what's happening?
This way? I think so.
It kind of looks like it. It looks like that would be like a fantastic campsite though.
Yeah, right?
anywhere up there would be.
I know. This is a really cool spot you found.
I know.
Yeah.
I've been up here for a long time.
I like what you're saying. I feel like it's kind of going in a direction of seeing negative emotion as just a part of it.
Yeah, just a thing.
But it's not, you don't have to associate your value to it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think that's what is going on there. I think it's people saying, negative emotion, I'm a failure.
Yeah.
Or negative emotion, so chaotic, can't handle it.
Yeah.
And oftentimes that happens, at least in my experience, where people have been either not exposed to it very much, their parents just don't talk about it, or they in a family that imploded, you know, like their parents divorced.
Yeah.
Kids in systems like that, it always attach self-meaning to their parents' divorce. Because it's impossible not to. You're a product of that system. So your identity is essentially tied to their failure.
Yeah.
And so then that creates this intense discomfort because your identity, your perception of it anyway, is failure.
Yeah.
So any negative emotion comes up, it immediately triggers this sense of, God, I screwed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a hard one to wrestle with. You know, because you basically have to have people in your life who consistently tell you, you're not.
Yeah,
You're not a failure.
I was just gonna say, what's the solve to all this? You know, like.
Yeah. It's supportive relationships, I think.
Yeah.
And ultimately, if you believe in spirituality, something outside of yourself.
Yeah.
And outside of relationships.
Yeah. Because oneself is met. What's that?
So I think supportive relationships.
Yeah.
Because that's how God works.
Through relationship. Yeah. Yeah. Because I think.
Let's jog a little bit.
Okay. Here, let me turn on my running app here. Yeah, I like what you're saying, man. Because yeah, I think humans, me included, are not perfect. So to trust others and oneself completely, it hasn't worked for me.
Right.
And even trying to control my thoughts doesn't work. Like, it works for a bit, but that level of surrender to something, I mean, the first step in AA is a higher power, right?
Yep.
I think, I think there's an equation almost, like the amount I cannot love another is equal to the amount I'm not accepting unconditional love in myself from God.
Yeah.
So like honestly, it's really hard for me to love others.
Oh yeah.
But when I've really wrestled with this, and
in a practical way,
like,
difficult.
well, like, yes, yeah, like as like as a practical way, or as like a functioning way, or as a choice, it's really hard, and it feels not genuine. It's like, oh well, I'm supposed to do this because I have to, as opposed to like an actual feeling and expression of actual love.
Right.
And I think I've kind of broken it down to where I think once I experience how much I am actually loved first by, we'll call it the divine, then from that comes just an outpouring of like actual love.
Yeah.
Instead of this like forced or conditioned kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think when I really lean into that, I am taken care of in a cosmic sense, and also I think in a physical sense too, but it's not as important.
Yeah.
Because you know, this is just a meat spaceship. It's gonna pass away. Another thing I've been wrestling with is like the will of God.
Oh yeah.
Like, well, and to be like God. I'm like, well, how do you do, like, well, what? That seems a little like a tyrant. Do my will, be like me. be perfect like me. And I like really struggled with that until I've like reframed it to, well, if God is love, I like love. And if that's the definition of God, then yeah, I want to do the will of love. I want to be like love.
Right.
So by that definition, I'm all in. Like,
right.
if that's the construct, sign me up.
Right. But there's also this thing, I think, I really love what you say, and actually I agree with that.
Agape specific.
Yeah, yeah.
Agape.
But I also wonder, like if that's like kind of a translation issue.
Woo! Watch out! Watch the ankles.
If that's a big translation issue, really, regarding our culture, and our view of power.
Yeah.
Because
if God's a white man
right,
on a throne,
yeah.
then that's a different kind of, yeah.
Because we're not taught to accept that sort of power, that sort of like dictatorship power. But I don't think that there's necessarily anything wrong with that. It's just not a structure that we live in. Because you go back to like when all this stuff was really like created, the Bible, they were kings. They were tyrants, dude.
Oh yeah.
They were horrible people.
Yeah.
And so in a lot of ways I think you're right. It's like God saying, hey, I am actually the king. Like that is who I am. But my identity is love.
Yeah.
And justice.
And mercy.
Like, and it isn't these horrible things.
Yeah, which in our survival brain, ego, whatever, associate a king with, yeah, what we've experienced, right?
Yeah, but the other thing is that like there's this profound kind of thing that you have to, not you, but people have to wrap their heads around, where the world is evil. The world is horrible. Like,
yeah, bad stuff happens.
People are freaking monsters. Like they really do terrible things. And there's some sort of weird relationship with that and God, where God somehow allows for freedom of will, but also knows everything.
Yep, this is the conundrum.
And then how?
This is the problem of evil.
Right.
This is what, yeah.
How comfortable are you trusting your life to that relationship?
Well,
I don't know. I mean, I'm not that comfortable with it.
Yeah, no, that's to me, that's my ongoing existential crisis. I mean, like I've gone down many existential roads around specifically this topic.
Yeah.
And it's propelled me again to having to actually experience that love,
right,
that peace, and that's where, you know, and then someone would argue, well, you're just creating that in your own mental construct. Well, okay, sure, but it's still better than being violent
right,
towards myself and others. Like,
right,
it's in a logical way of looking at it, it's still better, but
right, because you're actually sustaining a healthier view that is more positive.
yeah.
Yeah. And there is some value in positivity in your mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
But think about it then, okay? Then are you rationalizing your spirituality, and is your spirituality a relationship, or is it just a cognitive concept?
It has to be both. It has to be both, because if it was just a relationship, it could be this made up, what do you call it? Imaginary friend.
Right.
Like just this kind of Pollyanna attitude. Yeah. If I'm not looking at life honestly and accurately and really seeing the suffering and experiencing the suffering, then I'm just creating my own fun, happy, what do you call it? What's Peter Pan, Neverland?
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, or if I'm fully cognitive, well, then I'm gonna go insane, because there's way too many variables. Like, there's way too many, and the more variables I figure out, the more variables I realize I don't know, and you're just living in this mental craziness. Like,
You just go nuts.
you just go nuts. So it's like, it's gotta be both, man. Like, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's a perception thing. Like, we as humans just have such a like a pinprick perception that we're just dumb fucks. Like, we don't like, we just go around the world like, I know this, and,
Yeah,
and then,
yeah.
and then we see something for 5 minutes and we're like, oh, like,
Yeah,
I knew nothing.
exactly. Yeah. So again, for me, it's perspective. Like, trying to really see things honestly in a timeline of our Earth story,
Yep.
in my own personal timeline, the cultural timelines, and really kind of look at it from the outside.
Yep.
And you know, it's a pretty messed up world,
Oh yeah.
and it's getting better,
Yeah.
right? So, and then I also think, just based on my own personal experiences, those would be like, I guess we could call them spiritual or cosmic. There, and I've heard of other people having these experiences too.
Yep.
Some sober, some not. You know, let's be honest.
Yep.
I prefer the sober ones. They seem a little more accurate. Nothing against, you know, substance, no judgment. But it's always cool when, I guess, a spiritual experience happens soberly, because it's probably scientifically a little more accurate.
Yeah, you have like probably different relationship with yourself to have it. Interesting. Is this trail? It looks like it goes that way,
Oh yeah, I think this is it. Yeah,
but this feels kind of like it's teetering.
we better not get lost.
I'll get lost. My watch has a
Jeepus.
a track back feature, so if we're really lost, we can just turn around and
Yeah.
tell us where to go.
But those have been my anchor points and kind of my redirects.
Yep.
And like, okay, well, I've experienced kind of like that peace that passes understanding, of that unconditional love, on my own in solitude, right? So, and
from other people.
And from other people, of course. But I think it makes it more real when it's in solitude, because it's not attached or dependent on another people, place, or thing. It's more of like, I took a concepts of God class in college, and one of them I liked was, there's one that,
A concept?
yeah, so one of the concepts was, if God's like the ocean, so it'd be like a fish trying to find water. So us trying to find God is like, we're already in it, and that refers to the verse, for in God we live and move and have our being.
Right.
So, but then if you define God as love, in love we'd live and move and have our being. And
Right.
and some Hindu practices would call that Brahman,
Yeah.
like just resting in Brahman,
Yep.
God, love, right here.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I think that's interesting to relate to other cultures and religions, because if you think about the notion of God, like how much we know, how fair is it to assume that Christians have it pegged?
Yeah. Well, even that verse, for in God we live and move and have our being, Paul was quoting a different tradition. He wasn't like saying this is what Jesus said, or
Really?
the apostles. He's like, as even your own poets have said. He was talking, I think, to the Greeks or something.
Oh, right.
For in God we live and move and have our being.
Right. He did that a lot about the Greeks.
Well, and I think I really like that, because instead of, I like the yes and with religions, like,
Right.
yes, this is, and there's this too, as
Right.
opposed to like that, all that's bad,
Yeah.
and this is good.
Right,
It's
right.
like,
It's like when you do that, it quickly turns into a cult.
yeah, and it creates, Richard Rohr would say, a dualistic thinking, or a dualistic mind. It's creating sports teams. Like,
Yep.
my sports team's better than your sports team.
Right. Your sports team. But people do that, right? They're like,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, the Huskers, only the Huskers.
Yeah.
But then you're like, wait a minute, like, why?
Yeah. So then
Interesting trail.
yeah. But then that brings up
It'd be a lot more elevation game than was on that map.
yeah.
We spent like about a mile going downhill right now.
Yeah. But then that gets in the issue, well, what is true then? What is truth? Is truth absolute? Is truth made up?
Well, yeah, I think truth is...
How do you know what's true? Yeah, perception.
But that's a very uncomfortable thing to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it is, because how could you perceive something, I perceive something, and then filter it through my brain, and then say, this is absolute. The only things you can really say I think are absolute are facts that like are completely indisputable. But like, there aren't that many of those. So it's kind of weird. It's hard to actually define what truth is.
I've learned it through suffering. Maybe.
That's hilarious.
Well, I mean, it's the classic, when the pain of staying the same is greater than change, then change will happen.
Oh, right.
So
Yeah, you're right though.
at some point it's like, this hurts way too much for me to continue doing this thing and believing it as something that's true or beneficial or healthy. And that's kind of redirected me towards things where I find consistency in a benefit that works for me and others.
Yep.
And they're usually similar, or a pattern there where it's like, oh, these are checkpoints, or like when you climb a mountain that has all snow on it and they have those posts because you can't see the trail.
Yep.
So you like go to the posts.
Yep. Is that just you? Or does that apply to other people too?
See, that's the thing. I mean, who am I to judge? But I have noticed that some people go to those same posts.
Yeah.
You know, like, and maybe the post could be like like principles or values like forgiveness.
Yeah.
Or kindness.
Yep.
Or seeking to understand.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I think those are the core things, and we get lost. Like, we get so lost. You know, we're so stuck debating what is actually true that we get kind of screwy in like how we value people who are different than us.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, at the end of this conversation, my current guideline, I guess, personal guideline is we're all family. Like, I don't care if you're different or whatever. You're my brother, you're my sister, period. At least that's my aim, to have that be a focus.
Yeah.
Like, I think Jesus' definition of the kingdom of God was more of the family of God. Like, and that we're all in it.
Yeah.
Like, I believe we're all in it.
And that's important because the family is much different than the church.
Well, church defined as
current modern evangelical church.
Okay, yeah, because there's definitely a lot of different kinds of churches, right?
Yeah, I think they try. Definitely try. And there's some churches that do it better than other churches. But I think it's got to be at a micro level. It's got to be like one relationship at a time.
Yeah.
How you value people.
Yeah.
At a macro level, my brain doesn't really compute it as much.
Macro level being, oh, like people you haven't seen, people in a different country, or
yeah, like how to apply it in a system. I think that's where people get really messed up. Is they try to apply these big constructs to broader things in life, and then people make mistakes or whatever. I don't know, it's interesting because like talking about it, the more you think about it, I guess, in some ways, the church does a pretty good job with it. Because they allow for people to develop relationships. If it's a healthy church, they allow people to fail.
Yeah.
So like maybe they are actually doing better than I think they are.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the. Who knows, right? Like, I was a youth director half my life, so I've been through a lot of different churches.
Yep.
And on a business, practical, societal level, they're basically a nonprofit business.
Yep.
That's either helping the community or not.
Yeah.
That's how I see church.
Yeah.
And then, independent of that, I think it is a relationship to God, and that to me that should be personal.
Yeah.
So I think a healthy view in my mind.
So it's like a twofer. Yeah.
Yeah, a healthy view in my mind of church is, hey, we're a nonprofit organization that gets together, and let's be a resource to help our community, our families, local families, our own families, community at wide.
Yeah.
And let's organize to make things possible, like whatever it is, providing food, providing relationships with people that are lonely, providing counseling, providing whatever, you know. To me, that's healthy, like, as opposed to a place that takes money and doesn't do any of those things. Yeah. Then that's more of a cult.
Yeah, totally.
You're a nonprofit business that is collecting money to run a building.
I actually like that view of it. I really like that view. And then, like, the healthier the church, the more the people will be developing those relationships and allowing for failure and repair.
It's in my mind, it's a service to the community. And it could be a healthy remedy for loneliness too, for a lot of people.
I think it is.
They know there's this place they can go and just like be, hopefully, welcome.
Yeah.
If it's an agape focused thing.
Yeah,
you know.
I think that's huge.
Yeah.
That's a good view of it. I think sometimes I have a cynical view of the church.
Oh yeah, I mean, as one should.
Yeah, and I don't know why either, because in a lot of ways, they do so much good.
Yeah, in a lot of ways they don't. Like, but that's the thing. That's the argument. You could say that about anything.
Right.
You could say that about a corporation.
Right.
You could say that about an entire country.
Criticism is kind of like how it connects to you, I think. Where, like, where I was a pastor's kid, so.
Okay, PK.
Yeah, I was a pastor's kid, and my dad is also a linguist.
Oh wow. Awesome.
He's a Bible translator, so he's like I guess about as much of an expert as you can get in this stuff.
Oh man, I'd love to pick his brain.
He's an interesting guy. But I think in some ways that really lends itself to a cynicism. Now I gotta decide what to do.
Under or over?
This is where the really important decisions of life come in.
Over.
Oh god. How flexible are my hips? Not flexible. It's hilarious.
Is this still recording?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. No, I love that.
Yeah, my dad has a pretty cynical view of religion as a construct.
Yeah.
Because I think he views, and this is my perspective, so it's probably not accurate to him, but I guess I should say I view the church and religion as being man's attempt to make meaning of God.
Yeah.
And then God is something else.
Yeah.
And so I think my dad views those things, and when he sees religion that is just like highly structured and follow a yearly schedule. And it's the same readings, it's the same sermon, it's the same hymns, year to year to year.
Yeah.
So every day in a church year, if you zoom out 10 years, it'll be the same.
Okay. So there's structure.
Right, and I think my dad, probably myself too, I have a very cynical view of that.
Okay.
I'm not really sure why either, because it could be great for some people.
Yeah, I think that's there's a verse that's everything's permissible, but not everything's beneficial. So
Right.
We're free, but if it's not benefiting you or others, then maybe adjust.
Right.
So it's
the
like,
interesting thing is the cynicism is not benefiting, right?
yeah.
So it's interesting when you see that. Like it's like,
Yeah.
okay, like negative view of what could actually be helping out some people.
Oh, for sure.
But in this kind of like, in this, I guess, view that there are better things of doing, better ways of doing things, and we should ascribe to them.
Yeah.
I think that's just a personality thing, because I do that a lot
Yeah.
in life. Even with like, I mean, food is like the best example. If I go to a restaurant, I don't really want to go to like McDonald's
Yeah.
or whatever. I want to go to like this one-off hamburger place.
Yeah.
You know, that's unique and like they have a culture and a name.
Yeah.
But if you really think about it, McDonald's is just as good.
Who doesn't want a Big Mac once in a while?
Yeah.
No, just playing. I mean, somebody. Yeah, I mean that's the thing is, everyone's journey is their journey, and who are we to say what's better for one person than another?
Right. Right.
Kind of like that's the big thing, and at least what Becca's been telling me. That's how she got her job. She's in social work now, and
Yep.
in her interview, she's like, I just think we should meet people where they're at.
Yeah.
That was like her answer to everything, and they're like, yeah, I think that's what we're all about, is meeting people where they're at. So
And it's interesting because
you're hired. Yeah.
professional work, I can totally do that.
Yeah.
Because that's my same philosophy.
Yeah.
And in like personal thought, I don't apply that.
Yeah.
There's still judgment. There's still like, oh, this is better.
Yeah. Sure.
Which is interesting. Like you can't rid yourself of the sense of like belonging or value that you get from something you really like.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And the hard part's just really uplifting other people.
yeah. And I've never had my mind changed through argument or have changed another person's mind through argument. Like it's only been through doing something for my own experiment and finding benefit in it.
Yeah.
Or seeing other people do their jam and being like, I like that.
Yep.
But they didn't tell me to do it or not do it.
Yeah.
It's all been through observation of others doing their thing and then me doing my thing.
So we really need to uplift each other.
Yeah, and I think
Reality.
and I think that because life's hard enough as it is, like my struggles daily, and
Yep.
and for someone else to make it worse, I'm like, okay, I'm already making this hard enough on myself.
Yeah.
I don't need you coming up in my grill. Nope. That's why people don't like that, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I think, really seeing the value in another and focusing on that.
Yeah.
And I think I like that thing, like trying to see ourselves and others the way love sees us or God sees us.
Yeah.
And so, well, how would perfect love see us? Well, they probably look for your qualities, your strengths, and really like focus on those and pull those out. Because
Yeah.
when you're in that jam, there's no room or time for the bad habits.
Yep. Yeah, and that's something that like that's one of the things that hits me the most. Especially like connected to people who I really love and care about. Like for some reason those are the relationships where it's hardest to not kind of judge or
Yeah.
maybe not impose your own will, but like insert your own will. Be like, hey, I like this.
Yeah.
And those are the situations I'm almost like most called out on, where like I'm interacting with my wife and I've been doing that. I've been like imposing my will for like like months really, you know?
Yeah.
And then I see my dad interact with my wife, and he's just nothing but like supportive and compassionate.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of left like, holy shit. Like I'm a selfish piece of crap. Like,
Yeah.
like really?
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. I can relate to that. I mean, I'm not married or have a girlfriend currently, but when I did, yeah.
That's hard.
Well, because then it's conditional.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, and I think that that's hard to see in yourself. It's hard to see your conditional love.
Yeah.
Because we kind of like, at least myself, I kind of justify it in like, oh, like I'm doing this because I love this person. You know, it's like about them. But
Yeah.
if it were actually about them, I'd probably be saying it in a different way.
Yeah, and I think it comes back, I mean, I'm talking to myself right here, like, the amount I conditionally love another is the amount I don't believe God unconditionally loves me. It's a condition I think I have to figure out before God can love me.
Yep.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's, yeah.
And I think that that's directly reflected in some sort of childhood experience.
Yeah, I think it has to do with my, I was born premature.
Oh yeah.
So I spent, did I tell you, like, I think it was 2 to 3 months, like, in this unconscious daily getting shots.
Oh, that's horrible.
In an incubator, like being held by my mom and then getting shots and then rolled away. Like,
oh my God.
So there's some like unconscious abandonment issues.
Yeah.
For sure. I think.
Anxiety surrounding.
Yep.
Surrounding.
Intimacy.
Yeah, love. Yeah.
Commitment. Yeah. Trusting it as real. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. That's highly accurate.
That's interesting. I have the same sort of stuff, but for other reasons. Because when you're a missionary kid and a pastor's kid, pastor's kid, love is conditional. You do something wrong, you're freaking like blown up in the church.
Oh, because everybody's looking at you.
Yeah, everyone knows you.
Yeah.
Right, and so that.
Talk about pressure. Jeez.
Right, very anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Social anxiety. And then the other thing is when you're a missionary kid, you're taught that like people basically don't, well, so you have like multiple cultures. You have like the culture of your parents, you have the culture of your homeland, and then you have the culture that you're living in.
Yeah.
And you don't belong to any of them. So for me, it lends itself to like an enormous amount of social anxiety where like I just struggle believing that I'm accepted in groups of people.
Yeah.
And you know, in a lot of ways I think makes me not want to engage in groups of people.
Ah.
Not want to foster group relationships.
Because there could be the potential where you don't feel accepted.
Well, I think it's that I believe I am not.
Ah.
Regardless of the potential.
Ah, gotcha.
But in one-on-one, I'm totally fine.
Yeah.
And that's a reflection of my parents' unconditional love, really. And acceptance of me.
Ah.
But it shows you like the community is huge.
Uh-huh.
In your perception of yourself. I want to go this way. There's a lot of blowdown.
Yeah, where's our tax dollars going here? Okay, it's 3:45, so that's not too bad.
Yeah, so 15 minutes will easy do that in half an hour.
Okay.
But it's interesting, and I think the funny way that it manifests for me, that I have to deal with on a daily basis, is like I'll be in a situation where I'm interacting with people, and then all of a sudden, completely uncontrollably, I'll just start sweating.
Oh.
And I'll sweat like it's like compulsive, dude. Like
Wow.
like I'll sweat and you'll be able to see it dripping down my forehead.
Oh wow.
Not like I'm gonna like saturate a shirt sort of thing,
Uh-huh.
but like you'll notice because it'll be glistening a little bit.
Sure.
And I did this one therapy retreat with a guy who I really like. His name is David Manick.
Okay.
And he had me up in front of a group participating in a role play.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a role play, but he kind of wanted us to do something real in our life. And I thought I was being real because I was like, I feel anxious. I'm doing a running race in like a couple days.
Yeah.
It's longer than I've ever gone before. And I don't really want, like, I'm just afraid.
Yeah.
And I thought it was going okay. And then he all of a sudden just paused. Oh, look at that bridge. That's cool.
Should we do bridge?
Let's see.
Because bridges are cool.
Badger Creek Trail. Did we actually do the
Oh.
loop that I was setting out to do? I think we did.
Oh my God.
I think we did part of it, but
Oh,
we
wow.
can go back. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, let's go like a little longer, and then we'll be at
Here.
5 miles. Oh,
Let me get in front for audio.
But so I thought it was going well, and this guy. Oh, that's so pretty. Wow,
Yeah.
look at that.
Seriously.
I gotta take a picture of this. Oh no, it's like all wet.
You got to get this really expensive
I know,
waterproof
plastic.
case
Yeah.
here on Amazon. It's limited edition.
It costs $30.
You got ripped off.
I almost brought one of those actually.
Dude,
And for some reason I didn't.
so underrated. Just as a Ziploc bag. That's all you need.
I know. Oh.
This is awesome. This is great, man. We should do this more often.
I know, it's so fun. Right?
Dude, I'm all about
love
this.
getting out and stuff.
I love trail running, yeah.
And it's so fun when you do it for like when you do like an all-day sort of adventure.
Yeah.
Have you ever done like an all-day thing where you like?
Not an all-day run. I mean, I've done a relay race with my cousins, so that was like a 3-day thing. So that was a blast. That was in the Cascade Lakes. That was probably one of the funnest things ever.
Oh, you did the yeah, that's a good one supposedly.
Dude, if you get a chance.
Cascade Lakes. Yeah.
Oh man.
I'm gonna hold it. It's easier.
Oh yeah, we're going a little bit more, right?
Yep.
This way.
Yeah, but so this guy, he's a master therapist. He's like, he'll see you talk, and you won't even realize it, but when you're talking, he's analyzing your face.
Huh.
And on like the way you say things, like the way your muscles move, your body posture,
Wow.
the tone of your voice, how quickly it happens, everything.
Yeah.
So he looked at me, paused the mock therapy session, and was like, so this client will fool you every time because he will make you think he's feeling something. He's real good at it, but he's not actually feeling anything.
Whoa.
And I was sitting there in my head like, holy shit, like what in the world is he talking about? He's basically saying I'm lying.
Wow.
I'm like, I'm trying to show emotion, right?
Yeah.
But I wasn't, right? And he knew it, I wasn't. And so then he took over the demo and he said, okay, I want you to close your eyes. Close your eyes and think about this emotion, what this is like for you right now. And I kid you not, in a split second, my head took me back to a time when I was 16 or so. I was at a hockey game and I just felt profoundly lonely.
Huh.
Because I didn't belong in that culture.
Yeah.
I didn't have any place there.
Okay.
And I knew it. And people, they didn't always talk to me. Sometimes they did. Sometimes it was great. Sometimes they, like kids do, made fun of me for the way I talked or whatever, you know? Normal kid stuff.
Yeah.
And all I wanted in that moment was for my dad to have been there in that moment, in that game.